More than 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images. CNN teams are carefully sifting through the largest, and what the Justice Department says is the last, batch of Jeffrey Epstein files. It's an enormous trove of documents, and it includes references to some of the richest and most powerful people on the planet. That includes the current president, a former president, cabinet secretaries, a former prime minister, billionaires, and the list goes on and on and on. The Justice Department says tonight that its job is done.
We complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents.
I should note that just because someone is mentioned in these documents does not mean that they've been accused of wrongdoing or did anything wrong. Many of these claims are unverified or they rely on secondhand information. But these are the key findings our team has uncovered so far, and I should note, millions of pages have come out. We are still digging right now in this hour. Donald Trump's name appears thousands of times in these new documents. In some, he's merely mentioned in emails that Jeffrey Epstein sent to other people. But the files also contain a complaint from a woman who accused Trump of raping her in 1994 when she was just 13 years old. According to the FBI document, this accuser, who is identified as Jane Doe, said that Jeffrey Epstein was, quote, angry that Trump was the one to take her virginity and that she was also raped by Jeffrey Epstein. This woman had previously launched lawsuits against Trump and dropped them. The last one happened right before the 2016 election. The president has previously denied these allegations. Also included in today's release was a list of sexual assault allegations related to the president compiled by the FBI in August, many of which appear to have come from unverified tips. We don't know why tonight the FBI made this list, and there are more than a dozen allegations that are included in it. But recall what the president has previously said about these documents, about the Jeffrey Epstein files. He said that they are a hoax and that the release of them could ruin people's reputations.
I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him.
I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it.
Just to be clear, Christopher Wray was the president's pick for FBI director that he put into that job. This also comes as we're learning for the first time about Jeffrey Epstein's contact with Elon Musk. You may remember Elon Musk dropped what he described as a really big bomb last year. He said Trump was in the Epstein files, and that was the real reason that they had not been made public. Well, it turns out, based on what we saw today, Musk is also in the Epstein files. Emails show that he tried coordinating multiple visits to Jeffrey Epstein's private island. In one from 2013, Elon Musk asked Jeffrey Epstein, when should we head to your island? The year before, he said, what day night would be the wildest party on your island? Now, this is after Musk claimed, in all caps, I should note, last year that, quote, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island, and I refused. Musk's representatives did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment for explanation for those emails and that contact. And speaking of distancing and denials, recall what President Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said just last year about a 2005 encounter that he had with Epstein at his Manhattan townhouse.
I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. Ooh. And he says, and the right kind of massage. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Okay, so that was 2005. The files released today showed that Howard Lutnick tried to meet or call with Epstein several times after 2005, much longer after. A 2011 email to Jeffrey Epstein from his assistant reads, Howard Lutnick will come see you at 5 p.m. That same year, the heading of an alarm message reads, Drinks with Howard Lutnick. And Lutnick also emailed Jeffrey Epstein's assistant in 2015, inviting Epstein to a Democratic fundraiser for Hillary Clinton that he was hosting. Asked for comment on these emails and the correspondence between the two, a spokesperson for the Commerce Department told CNN Secretary Lutnick had limited interactions with Mr. Epstein in the presence of his wife and has never been accused of wrongdoing.
Some of the victims of Epstein have expressed frustration with the entire process. I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to them.
Well, I don't know what you're speaking to. I mean, if there's frustration with, quote, the entire process, same here. I mean, you have a situation where for many, many years, nobody even breathed a word about Jeffrey Epstein. And then all of a sudden, it was all anybody would talk about. Listen, victims of Mr. Epstein have gone through unspeakable pain. And there's nobody that should say anything differently. I hope that the work that the men and women within this department have done over the past 2 months hopefully is able to bring closure.
And tonight we are hearing directly from Jeffrey Epstein's survivors who are angry, some of them frustrated that their names showed up unredacted in the files that came out today, despite what we heard from the Justice Department about a pledge to prioritize their privacy. More than a dozen of the survivors issued a new joint statement. It reads in part, this latest release of Jeffrey Epstein files is being sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. That is outrageous. As survivors, we should never be the ones named, scrutinized, and re-traumatized, while Epstein's enablers continue to benefit from secrecy. This is a betrayal of the very people this process is supposed to serve.
Documents. A lot of that information, though, has not been corroborated.
That's right.
Is there anything in particular that stands out to you that is at the top of the list in terms of trying to pin down that information, verify it, and corroborate it?
Well, I think one way we could verify and corroborate it or not would be to have some of the FBI's statements, right, or the statements that survivors and those making allegations submitted to the FBI. What we have in the files is a summary, a spreadsheet basically summarizing them. We don't have the written statements that were taken. We don't have transcripts of interviews that were conducted. So I think that could help us learn more.
Okay.
I want to play something from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, he's the former personal attorney of the president, who said and claimed that the White House played no role in the Epstein file review. Let's play that.
Look, my team has certain communications with the White House. Let me just be clear. They had nothing to do with this review. They had no oversight over this review. They did not tell this department how to do our review, what to look for, what to redact, what to not redact.
That is difficult to believe for those of us who have been paying attention and have eyeballs and ears, because this president, at the very least, has made very implicit direction to the DOJ on Epstein, talking about who he thinks should be investigated, talking about that, saying what he thinks his relationship with Epstein was. Yeah. Do you trust that the White House had no hand in this? There was also reporting, and I think, as a matter of fact, Susie Wiles said herself in a Vanity Fair article that she had talked to Attorney General Pam Bondi about some of this.
Two things I would say. I want to see the Deputy Attorney General answer that question under oath, and I think perhaps in a future Congress he'll be asked to do that. But the other thing, look, the way this administration operates, and I won't compare it to any other kinds of organizations, but people know what the boss wants. Mm-hmm. So the boss doesn't necessarily have to always explicitly direct it. That's the way this administration operates, and that might have been the case here.
As a former New Yorker, we would call that mob talk.
You said it, not me.
Politico reported that the House Judiciary Committee has scheduled a hearing with Attorney General Pam Bondi on February 11th, so in just a couple of weeks. She might as well be on the side of a milk carton when it comes to the Epstein file release. One, why do you think she hasn't been anywhere near this? And two, what do you hope your colleagues on the Judiciary Committee will ask her.
Well, look, Pam Bondi is on the ropes inside the administration. I think that's been widely reported. The president's frustrated with her inability to explain the inexplicable, in my opinion. So they're frustrated with her public appearances. I want to understand, and I think the Judiciary Committee Democrats will get to this. Why didn't they follow the law? The law was very clear about the deadline. The law was very clear. Right? That's right. We're long past that. The law was very clear about the redactions. They did not.
Okay, so we're watching one of the most insane political cage matches I've ever seen, and it's all happening around Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton just declared war on Donald Trump over the Epstein files. Not with a sex tape like some headlines suggested, but with something almost better politically. With letters, with statements, with public demands that Trump's Justice Department release everything. And it's absolutely brutal. Here's what happened. House Republicans subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton to testify in their Epstein investigation, closed-door depositions, under oath, the whole thing. And the Clintons said, absolutely not. They refused. They sent back a 4-page letter basically telling Congress to go to hell and saying the subpoena process was literally designed to result in our imprisonment. Are you kidding me right now? A former president and a former Secretary of State just defied a congressional subpoena and accused the committee of trying to jail them. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. But here's where it gets even crazier, because Clinton isn't just refusing to testify, he's going on offense. His spokesperson, Angel Urania, came out swinging, saying that the Justice Department's selective releases of Epstein files make it clear that someone or something is being protected. That's Clinton's team openly accusing Trump's DOJ of a cover-up, of hiding key documents, of protecting powerful people. And Clinton himself went on camera saying there's no need for protection and demanding complete transparency about the Epstein files, demanding that DOJ immediately release any remaining documents that mention or show Bill Clinton. And oh, by the way, any that mention Donald Trump too. Come on. Clinton is basically saying, if you want to drag me into this Epstein scandal, let's show the whole country what's in Trump's files too. That's political warfare. That's Clinton turning the Epstein investigation into a weapon against Trump by demanding full transparency that would expose both of them. And the timing is perfect because the Justice Department just released the final massive batch of Epstein files. 3 million pages, thousands of videos and images, everything they have. And guess whose names keep popping up throughout the documents? Trump and Clinton. Both of them. Hundreds of mentions. References to flights on Epstein's jet. Parties. Events. Both men being part of Epstein's social circle. So neither of them can claim they barely knew the guy anymore. The files prove both Trump and Clinton had significant connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And instead of coming clean about it, instead of being honest with the American people, both of them are using Epstein as a weapon to attack each other while trying to hide their own connections. Trump is pushing his Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Clinton. He's encouraging House Republicans to go after the Clintons over Epstein. He's trying to make this a Clinton problem and deflect from his own ties. Meanwhile, Clinton is firing back, saying Trump's DOJ is hiding files and protecting people, that Trump spent a year fighting transparency on Epstein, that if Trump wants to investigate Clinton, then let's release everything and see who really has something to hide. It's mutual blackmail politics. It's two former presidents who both knew Epstein trying to take each other down while protecting themselves, and the public is stuck watching this circus while nobody actually faces accountability. Because here's the thing, the new files don't contain smoking gun criminal evidence against either Trump or Clinton, according to DOJ. There's no charges coming. There's no criminal case, just a lot of damaging information about how close both men were to a convicted sex trafficker. And both of them fighting desperately to control the narrative and make this about the other guy instead of themselves. So Clinton's dirty Trump video isn't a literal sex tape. It's worse for Trump politically. It's Clinton using Trump's own Epstein investigation to demand transparency that exposes Trump. It's Clinton saying, you want to subpoena me? Fine. But let's release every single Epstein document about you too and see who comes out looking worse. That's the political equivalent of mutually assured destruction, and we're watching it play out in real time. Let me walk you through exactly what happened and why this matters so much. All right, so let's start with the House Republican subpoena because that's what triggered this whole explosion. The House Oversight Committee, run by Republicans, is conducting an investigation into Epstein's network and connections to powerful people. And they decided to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton for closed-door depositions. They want the Clintons to come in, answer questions under oath, explain their connections to Epstein. Standard congressional investigation stuff. Except the Clintons looked at that subpoena and said, this is a trap. They sent back a 4-page letter to the committee chairman explaining why they won't comply. And the letter is scorching. It basically accuses the committee of running a partisan witch hunt designed not to find truth, but to create a perjury trap that would result in the Clintons going to prison. The letter says the process is literally designed to result in our imprisonment, and that the Clintons will forcefully defend ourselves against it. Think about how significant that is. Congressional subpoenas have legal weight. You can be held in contempt of Congress for defying them. You can face criminal charges. But the Clintons are so convinced this is a setup that they're willing to risk contempt rather than walk into what they see as a perjury trap. And honestly, they might have a point, because if you look at who's running this investigation, it's Republicans who have spent decades attacking the Clintons. If you look at the context, it's happening under a Trump administration that has openly called for Clinton's prosecution. If you look at the structure, it's closed-door depositions where anything Clinton says could be twisted and used against him. So the Clintons are calculating that it's safer to defy the subpoena and fight it in court than to actually testify and give Trump's allies ammunition. But they're not just playing defense. They're going on offense hard. Clinton's spokesperson came out and directly accused Trump's Justice Department of hiding Epstein files, said that the selective releases make it clear that someone or something is being protected. That's a massive accusation. That's saying the DOJ under Trump is engaged in a cover-up. That they're protecting powerful people by controlling what gets released and what stays hidden. And Clinton himself went on television and doubled down. He said there's no need for protection and demanded that DOJ immediately release any remaining Epstein files that mention him or show him. Put it all out there. Complete transparency. No redactions. No selective leaks. Everything. Come on, that's calling Trump's bluff. Because Trump has spent years positioning himself as the transparency candidate on Epstein. He campaigned on releasing all the files. He said he'd expose the elites, but then he spent a year fighting transparency and only released files when Congress forced him. So Clinton is saying, okay, tough guy, if you really want transparency, release everything about me and everything about you, and let's see who comes out looking worse. And here's the really clever part of Clinton's strategy. By demanding his own files be released, he's making it impossible for Trump to refuse without looking guilty. Because if Trump's DOJ says, no, we're not releasing everything about Clinton, then it looks like they're protecting Clinton, which makes no sense given the partisan dynamics. But if they do release everything about Clinton, they have to release everything about Trump too. And Trump doesn't want that. Trump has spent a year trying to hide his Epstein connections. So Clinton is boxing Trump in. Either release nothing and look like you're covering up, or release everything and expose yourself along with Clinton. It's a political checkmate move. And it's happening right as the final DOJ Epstein file dump hits. 3 million pages just got released. Thousands of videos and images. Everything the federal government has on Jeffrey Epstein. And people are combing through these files, finding references to both Trump and Clinton. Flight logs showing both of them on Epstein's jet at various times. Emails mentioning both of them. Photos from parties and events where both were present. The files paint a picture of two powerful men who were both in Epstein's orbit for years, who both socialized with him, who both had access to his plane and his parties and his network, and neither can claim they barely knew the guy anymore. The evidence is right there in millions of pages of documents. Now, DOJ made a point of saying that the files don't contain criminal charges against either Trump or Clinton. There's no smoking gun, no evidence of crimes, some allegations that might be false, but nothing that would lead to prosecution. So both men can claim vindication on the criminal front. But politically, the damage is done, because the files show connections that both men downplayed. They show a level of friendship and social interaction with a sex trafficker that's toxic, regardless of whether it was criminal. And voters see that. They see Trump and Clinton both trying to minimize their Epstein connections, while the files prove those connections were more extensive than either admitted. And here's where Trump's hypocrisy becomes really apparent, because Trump is pushing for Congress to investigate Clinton. He's urging Attorney General Pam Bondi to look into Clinton's Epstein ties. He wants hearings and subpoenas and prosecutions, but at the same time, Trump fought for a year to hide his own Epstein connections. He resisted releasing the files. He only dumped them when legally required. So he wants accountability for Clinton, but not for himself. And Clinton is calling that out. Clinton's team is saying the emails and documents prove Bill Clinton did nothing and knew nothing about Epstein's crimes. That Clinton has nothing to hide. That if Trump wants to investigate, bring it on, but release everything about both of them and let the public judge. That's effective political messaging because it flips the script. It makes Trump look like the one with something to hide. The one who's afraid of transparency. The one who's using the justice system as a weapon while refusing to be transparent himself. So what does all of this actually mean? What are the implications of this Clinton versus Trump-Epstein fight? Well, first, it shows that neither man is going to be held criminally accountable for their Epstein connections, despite all the documents and investigations. Because DOJ already said there are no charges coming. The files don't contain evidence of crimes by either Trump or Clinton. So all this drama, all these investigations and subpoenas and document dumps, it's not leading to justice. It's just two powerful men using Epstein as a political weapon against each other, while protecting themselves from real consequences. That's infuriating for Epstein's victims, who are watching powerful people deflect and attack each other, while nobody faces accountability for enabling a sex trafficking network. Second, Clinton's strategy of demanding total transparency is politically brilliant, but also cynical, because he knows Trump doesn't want total transparency. Trump spent a year fighting Epstein file releases. He only dumped them when forced by law. So Clinton can demand transparency knowing Trump will resist, which makes Trump look guilty. It's a win-win for Clinton politically, even if the files contain damaging information about him. Because the story becomes Trump is hiding something rather than Clinton had inappropriate Epstein connections. That's how you use transparency demands as a political weapon. You call for something you know your opponent fears, and when they resist, you've proven your point that they're the ones covering up. Third, the mutual blackmail dynamic here means we're never going to get the full truth about Epstein's network, because both Trump and Clinton have incentive to protect each other to some degree. If Trump really went all in on prosecuting Clinton over Epstein, Clinton would respond by demanding every Trump document be released. If Clinton really pushed for full Trump transparency, Trump would weaponize DOJ against Clinton. So they're stuck in this standoff where neither can destroy the other without destroying themselves. And that standoff protects both of them from accountability. The public loses because we don't get truth. Victims lose because we don't get justice. But Trump and Clinton both escape serious consequences because they have dirt on each other. Fourth, this whole circus is a massive distraction from actual governance and policy. Trump should be dealing with his crashing approval ratings, his immigration crisis, his court losses, his economic problems, but instead he's focused on investigating Bill Clinton over Epstein. Why? Because it fires up his base. Because it changes the subject. Because Epstein's scandal coverage drives engagement and lets Trump play victim and attack his enemies. So every time Trump faces a new crisis, he pivots to Epstein and Clinton. It's a distraction tactic. And Clinton is helping him do it by engaging in the fight rather than just ignoring it. Fifth, the House Republicans trying to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress is going to be a legal nightmare that goes nowhere, because the Clintons will fight it in court. They'll argue the subpoenas were invalid. They'll claim executive privilege or attorney-client privilege or whatever. The case will drag on for years, and by the time it's resolved, the political moment will have passed and nobody will care anymore. So the contempt threat is mostly symbolic. It lets Republicans say they tried to hold Clinton accountable. But it's not actually going to result in testimony or consequences. It's theater. Sixth, voters are watching two former presidents attack each other over their connections to a pedophile and sex trafficker, while neither takes real accountability. And that breeds cynicism. It reinforces the belief that powerful people are above the law, that the system is rigged, that Trump and Clinton can both have extensive ties to Jeffrey Epstein and escape consequences while regular people would be in prison. That cynicism is dangerous for democracy because it makes people stop believing in institutions and rules and fairness. When the most powerful people openly flaunt their immunity from accountability, why should anyone else follow the rules? Seventh, this fight is happening right before the 2026 midterms, which means it's all about political advantage rather than truth or justice. Trump wants to make Clinton, and by extension, Democrats look corrupt and connected to Epstein. Clinton wants to make Trump look like a hypocrite who's hiding his own Epstein connections. Both are using this scandal for partisan gain. And voters are supposed to choose based on who's less connected to a sex trafficker, which is a pretty depressing choice. The midterms become not about policy or vision, but about which party can successfully weaponize Epstein against the other. That's not healthy politics. That's mudslinging and distraction. So where does this all end up? Trump and Clinton will keep fighting over Epstein. Congress will keep investigating. Documents will keep getting released or withheld. Both men will keep claiming innocence while accusing the other of crimes. And nothing will actually happen. No criminal charges, no real accountability, just endless political warfare using dead sex trafficking victims as weapons. That's the reality. Clinton's blast at Trump isn't a video. It's letters and statements and transparency demands. But it's effective politically because it puts Trump in a bind. Release everything and expose yourself, or hide documents and look guilty. Either way, Trump loses. But Clinton doesn't really win either, because the files show he had extensive Epstein connections too. So we get mutual damage, mutual distraction, mutual escape from accountability. And the American people get to watch two former presidents with Jeffrey Epstein problems attack each other instead of coming clean. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. And it tells you everything about how broken our system is when the most powerful people can have documented connections to a sex trafficking network and face no consequences beyond political embarrassment. Welcome to 2026, where former presidents use dead pedophiles as weapons against each other, while the rest of us wonder if justice even exists anymore.